the meat grinder. On July 3rd, 1990, a 17-year-old kid from Loveland, Colorado, let's call him GH, was out with his family in the Wild Basin area of Rocky Mountain National Park. It was a beautiful summer day, the 4th of July weekend, and the snow was melting fast. That's the thing about the Rockies in early July. Everything looks peaceful, but the meltwater is absolutely raging. Streams that look ankle deep are actually running at full force, ice cold, and powerful enough to knock a grown man off his feet. GH and his family hiked up to the top of Ouzel Falls, a gorgeous 40-foot cascade surrounded by pine trees and wildflowers. Postcard perfect. But GH wasn't just there to admire the view. He wanted a cool photo. The kind of photo that makes your friends go, "Whoa, dude, you're insane." So he decided he was going to jump across the stream right at the top of the falls, right where the water goes over the edge. His family told him not to. The park had no crossing signs posted everywhere. The rocks were slick with moss and spray. But when you're 17, you're immortal, right? He took a running start, aimed for a rock on the other side, and leaped. Mid-air, his foot caught the wet surface wrong. Instead of landing his epic jump, he just stopped. And then he went backward. He tumbled straight into the churning, violent whitewater at the lip of the falls. The force of the water was like a blender set to maximum. He was sucked down, slammed against the rocks, pulled under, and thrown back up, over and over. His family could only stand there and scream. It took rescue crews 5 agonizing hours to recover his body from the pool at the base of the falls. And when they did, the official report used the word pulverized. His body had been so thoroughly thrashed against the rocks that there wasn't much left to recognize. The family later sued the park, but the case was dismissed. All for a photo that was never even taken. The anniversary from hell. Harold Hemthorne seemed like a loving husband.
Hello.
On September 29, 2012, he took his wife, Tony, a 50-year-old successful ophthalmologist and philanthropist, on a surprise hike in Rocky Mountain National Park to celebrate their 12th wedding anniversary. Romantic, right? Except Harold chose a rugged, remote trail near Deer Mountain, far from the usual tourist paths. And Tony had a bad knee that made strenuous hiking painful. And Harold had a map in his pocket with a little X marking a spot on a cliff edge. Yeah, an actual X. He also had 3 life insurance policies on Tony, totaling $4.7 million, which she knew absolutely nothing about. As they reached that pre-marked spot, a sheer 140-foot drop above the rocks, Tony fell. Harold, the only witness, called 911. But his story kept changing. First, she slipped taking a picture. Then, she was looking at her phone. Then, he couldn't see what happened because he was behind her. 4 different versions of the same accident. Investigators found Tony's body shattered on the rocks below, her boots knocked off by the impact, and her camera oddly intact nearby. But the diamond from her wedding ring was missing. Who loses a diamond from a ring during a fall? Unless someone removed it before the fall. But this wasn't even Harold's first deadly accident. 17 years earlier, in 1995, his first wife, Lynn, was crushed to death when their car slipped off a jack while he was changing a tire on a remote mountain road. He was the only witness then, too, and he collected $600,000 in life insurance. 2 wives, 2 accidents. 1 witness both times. The investigation into Tony's death reopened the case of Lynn's. In 2015, a federal jury convicted Harold Hemthorne of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He planned it all for the money, turning their anniversary into a cold-blooded, premeditated execution on a cliff. The Ghost Cat. On New Year's Day 2026, 46-year-old Kristen Kovach, an experienced trail runner and medical assistant from Fort Collins, was out for a run on the Crozier Mountain Trail near Estes Park. This was her home turf, a place she knew and loved. But on this day, she wasn't alone, and the thing that was with her wasn't friendly. Two other hikers on the trail came across a horrifying scene. A mountain lion was standing over Kristen's body. They threw rocks at the lion, trying to scare it away, and frantically called 911. When Larimer County deputies and Colorado Parks and Wildlife officers arrived, the lion was still in the area. It approached the officers, who shot it. It ran off, but was later tracked down by houndsmen and euthanized. But that wasn't the end of it. A second lion, a female subadult, was also seen nearby and euthanized. Then a third lion approached the scene, but it managed to escape. It turned out to be a family group of young lions, likely learning to hunt, and Kristen was their lesson. A necropsy on the male lion found human DNA on all four of its paws. It had been a violent, prolonged attack. This was the first fatal mountain lion attack in Colorado in over 25 years. It was a huge deal. But what makes it even more chilling is that there had been warnings. Just 2 months earlier, on the same trail, a man had been approached by a lion and had to fight it off with a tree branch. A month after that, a man in nearby Glen Haven shot and killed a lion that was attacking his dog in his yard. The signs were there. The lions were getting bolder. But nobody expected this. Kristen Kovach died doing what she loved, in a place she loved. But the wild is still wild, and sometimes it reminds us of that in the most brutal way possible. The ghost cat. Somewhere in the late 1990s or early 2000s, a 30-year-old climber from Lakewood, Colorado, known in reports only as RKH, was tackling Lamb's Slide on Long's Peak with his climbing partner, DF. This isn't a casual hike. Lamb's Slide is a legendary 1,000-foot gully of compacted snow and exposed rock, tilted at a relentless 45-degree angle. It's one of the most dangerous routes on Long's Peak, and Long's Peak is already the deadliest mountain in Colorado, with more fatalities than any other 14er in the state. RKH was experienced. He knew the mountain. He knew the risks. He and DF were doing everything right, moving carefully, reading the conditions. They were near the very top, just a few feet from finishing the most difficult and exposed section of the climb. The hard part was essentially over. Victory was in sight. And then, for a reason nobody will ever know, he just lost his footing. One tiny slip. On a 45-degree slope of ice and rock, a tiny slip is a death sentence. There's nothing to grab, nothing to stop you. He began to slide. And he didn't stop. He slid, tumbled, and bounced for 1,000 feet, all the way down to the base of the gully. The impact was catastrophic. His partner, DF, horrified but composed, carefully made his way down the slope. He found RKH showing no signs of life, but he started CPR anyway. For 2 full hours, alone on the side of a mountain, he desperately tried to bring his friend back. He was still performing chest compressions when the Flight for Life helicopter finally arrived. A nurse on board checked RKH and pronounced him dead at the scene. He had conquered the entire mountain, only to be defeated by the last few feet. DF spent 2 hours trying to save a man who was already gone. That's loyalty. That's also heartbreaking. The deadly backpack. On September 15, 1986, a doctor, identified in reports only as Dr. LNF, was hiking with 3 companions on a narrow, exposed trail between Long's Peak and Mount Meeker in Rocky Mountain National Park. This trail is not for beginners. It's a high-altitude ridge walk with steep drop-offs on both sides, loose rock, and sections where the path is barely wider than your shoulders. One wrong step, and you're looking at a very long fall with a very sudden stop. Dr. LNF had made a classic, and in his case, fatal mistake. His backpack was too damn heavy. We've all done it. Pack that extra jacket, that extra bottle of water, that 5-pound bag of trail mix you'll never eat. But on a narrow, high-altitude trail with a steep drop-off, every ounce matters. Your center of gravity shifts. A gust of wind hits different. A stumble that you'd normally recover from in a split second becomes unrecoverable. As the group navigated a particularly narrow section of the path, the doctor, weighed down by his overloaded pack, lost his balance. It was a simple stumble, the kind of thing that happens 1,000 times on every hike. But the sheer weight and momentum of the pack on his back acted like an anchor, pulling him sideways and then over the edge. He fell 500 feet to his death. His 3 companions could only watch in horror as he disappeared over the side. Park rangers were dispatched and spent the rest of the afternoon recovering his body from the rocky slope below. No charges were filed. No foul play. Just a man, a trail, and a backpack that was too heavy. As a doctor, you'd think he'd be more aware of physical limits and safety. But the mountains don't care about your degree. They don't care about your experience. They just care about physics. And physics said that backpack was going to take him over the edge. The ghost climber. This one is just eerie. On August 4th, 1990, a 42-year-old solo climber from Boulder County, Colorado, was attempting to scale the treacherous ice face of Taylor Glacier near Long's Peak. The face is 1,310 feet of near-vertical ice and rock. It's one of the most dangerous alpine routes in the park. And this man was doing it completely solo. No ropes, no harness, no partner, no safety net of any kind. Just him, his ice axes, and a whole lot of confidence. You can probably see where this is going. He made it almost all the way to the top. Almost. Near the summit, he slipped. He plunged down the ice face, bouncing off rock and ice for over 1,000 feet, a fall that, statistically, should have killed him 10 times over. But here's what makes this story different. Another climber in the area witnessed the entire fall. Expecting the worst, this witness carefully made his way across the glacier to the body. And when he got there, the man was alive. He was injured, he was hypothermic, he was bleeding from multiple wounds, but he was conscious and talking. A miracle, right? The witness stayed with him, tried to keep him warm, and called for help. A rescue was set in motion. A medevac helicopter was dispatched. The man was going to make it. He had survived the unsurvivable. But he didn't make it. As they waited together on the ice for the helicopter to arrive, the solo climber's condition deteriorated. He bled out, slowly, right there on the glacier, next to the person who had come to save him. He survived a 1,310-foot fall. He was conscious. He was talking. He had help right next to him. And it still wasn't enough. The next day, a private contract helicopter came and lifted his body off the glacier. The mountain always wins. What the fuck, bro?